In this video, we're going to walk through the multiple ways that we can embed Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Drawing, and Google Slides into Schoology. When we embed these types of Google files, we're embedding them as resources or informational material for students to view to accomplish other tasks. They are also going to be viewable inside of Schoology. We're going to talk about a handful of ways that we can embed these type of files inside of Schoology so our students can view them within Schoology. We're going to look at an assignment description box embed, how to embed them in discussions description boxes, how to embed them as a link, how to embed it as a page, and then secondly, how we can embed it into assessment questions themselves. This will really work to streamline the student learning experience and help centralize resources for student engagement. If you first need to learn about Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Drawing, or Google Slides, please take a look at our GUHSD Tech Google Hub at the web address. Additionally, Google has a training center called the G Suite Training Center. If you would like to request support from a digital learning coach, please submit the form in Part 3. The first way we're going to learn to embed a Google file, whether it's a Google Sheet, a Google Doc, Google Slides, or Google Drawing, is going to be embedding as a link. So we're going to select Add Materials. We're going to select File, Link, and External Tool. We're going to then select Link. It's going to ask for the URL of the Google Doc or Sheet or Drawing or Doc, and then we put a title in here. So we're going to go ahead and find the URL now. Notice I have some drawings up here. There's a drawing, there's a sheet, there's a doc, and there's a slide presentation. Again, any of these type of 4 files can be properly embedded using this method. And so what we're going to do is just go ahead and select one. The first thing you want to make sure is that your share settings are set for anyone with the link can view. We'll go ahead and click Copy Link. We'll go back to Schoology. We'll paste the link in with Command V or Control V. Give it a title. In order to embed this, we do need to make sure that this option down here does say Display in Schoology. By default, this is the case. When we're finished, we'll go ahead and click Add. It's going to insert it as looking like a link. Students, or you can go here and click it. And then the file will be embedded with all of the native Google toolbar options that are available in the drawing itself. Because it's anyone with the link can view, students will not be able to edit this as long as you have your share settings that anyone with a link can view. So they would be able to access this drawing in this way. You do see that when you embed a Google Sheet, Google Drawing, Google Doc, or Google Slides presentation as a link that we've done here, you notice that there's not much manipulation we can do to the size of the item as it's embedded here. This is basically what you get. Students can click this arrow and it pops out into the actual Google Drawing itself if they want more space. All the links that are part of a Google Doc or any of the links or hyperlinks that are in your files that you do embed in this way will be live and students will be able to click them. The second way we're going to take a look at embedding Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Drawing is embedding inside of a page. And we're going to see some of the benefits as we compare and contrast this method to the link method. So we're going to start by clicking Add Materials. We're going to select Add Page. Give it a title. And down here is the box where we're going to be embedding our content. Go ahead and place the cursor where you'd like your content to be inserted. We're then going to select Insert Content, and we're going to select Google Drive Resource App. Now with this method here, we're going to actually search for our file. And there's a couple caveats that will go along with this. We notice that when we choose this way, we can embed different types of files. We can embed a Google Sheet if we prefer. We can embed a PDF. We can embed a Google Doc. We can embed a drawing. We cannot embed a form this way. We'll show that later. And then docs and then slides presentations as well can be embedded this way in addition to videos. But we'll cover that later as well. So go ahead and search for the file that you'd like to embed. Search for a Google Slides presentation in my Google Drive. I see it's right here. I'm going to go ahead and select it. And I'm going to click Import. And I'm going to select Import Embed. Once you do this, you'll see this yellow box show up. This is your inserted content. Once we create this, we will see that it is in fact embedded, but we're in the view mode here, but we're in the edit mode here. And so then once we do insert our content, we can click it and we can see that we can make it bigger or smaller by clicking the corners. Please click the corners only so that the size changes proportionally by its height and width. And you can click and drag it out as far as you need to. There is a little guess and check that goes along with this, and I'll show you that in a second. Let's go ahead and create it and see what the size looks like on our page. So students would come and click the page. There's my Google Slides presentation. I see that I actually have more room over here. So one of the things I can do is I can edit my page. The more that you do this, the more you'll get used to how much you need to stretch it out. I can stretch it out this way more, even though it feels like it shouldn't be doing that. It's working. Go ahead and click Save Changes. And it's kind of a little bit of a guess and check game. That looks pretty good. It takes up the most space. Again, I want to give my students the most room to work as I can. There is another option for resizing if you're comfortable working with HTML code. Over here to the right, we're going to switch to HTML, and I see that I have the width and the height listed here. These are the current widths and heights. So if you remember these numbers, then what you can do when you insert another piece of content is that you can just switch to HTML and change the numbers to 952 and 536. And that way it's easy for you to resize it without having to drag the box, in this case here. And so we'll do that now. To insert another piece of content here, you're going to click it. You're going to use the right arrow to click right arrow, and then you're going to click enter, and we see that our cursor now comes down to the next line. If you do accidentally delete this, you can do a quick Command Z or Control Z to undo it. The cursor will show up here. You again click the right arrow to move the cursor to the right side of the inserted content, and then we return so that we get down here. So now maybe let's insert another piece of content here. And now let's embed that same Google drawing that we embedded as a link. So if we embed that same Google drawing, select it, import embed. And now it inserts it here. So you can resize this to match this size here if you want to. Or again, we can switch to HTML, go here, the width is 952, just change that to 952, 536, and 536. Click Save Changes. Now that we can see our embedded content, we see that our Google drawing is embedded here. Notice that there's no native Google toolbar that accompanies this embed, doing it in this way with a page. Now, one thing also to consider is that students can't open, if we embed in pages here, they're not going to be able to open these into a new tab directly from here. So what a recommendation to do is to give the students an option to do that, is we're going to edit page, and right above where the embedded content is, if this is the presentation, right above here, maybe putting something like click here to open the new tab. Go ahead and highlight that. We're going to add a hyperlink because we're going to go grab the URL, copy the link of the URL for this presentation. So when students click this hyperlink, it does open into a new tab. Now that we have our hyperlink set, let's go ahead and click Save Changes. And we see that we have the presentation here, and we provided a hyperlink. So if students do want to access this as a new tab, they can do that as well. Just like embedding with a link, we need to make sure that the files that we're embedding are shared with anyone with a link can view. Next, we're going to take a look at how we can embed a Google Docs sheet, slide, or drawing into an assignment. So we're going to start by clicking Add Materials, and if you're going to make an assignment, where we have the opportunity to embed one of these type of Google files is in the description box here, and we're going to do it in the exact same way that we did it in a page, by clicking Insert Content and inserting a Google Drive resource app file. So this process is identical to the page process. You're going to go ahead and select whatever you want to embed. Maybe it's a Google Slides presentation that you want to embed in this assignment. So they go through the presentation and then they can submit their work in the assignment itself in Schoology. We'll go ahead and select our file, import embed. And now we notice we have the same functionality. We can resize if we want to. We can switch to HTML and manually adjust the width and height if we need to. Go ahead and give it a name. Go ahead and fill out your assignment as you normally would, whether you have links to the assignment and description box or whether you're using the Google Drive assignment app to assign things. You can go ahead and do that. fill out your details listed here. And now when students come, when they click in the Embed assignment, they see that there's the presentation listed right here. So they can go through the presentation. Students would have a submit option over here on the right side that would be here, that they could submit work that relates to whatever content maybe that you're embedding here. Again, please make sure that the files that you are embedding in this assignment are shared with anyone with a link in view. Similar to a page, you can embed multiple Google files using this assignment description box. And again, if you want them to be able to open this into a new tab, you do need to provide a hyperlink for them to do that if you're going to do it in this way. And again, this is the same process that we showed in the page. And then you would click save. And then they would now have access to click here or view it here and then submit here. We can also embed Google files into discussions in a similar way that we've done with the assignment. Add materials, select discussion. Go ahead and enter your title. And we're going to embed the content in the description box in the same way that we did the assignment. Insert content, Google Drive resource app. And we're going to go ahead and select our file. Again, this could be a Google Doc, could be a Google Drawing, could be a sheet. We're going to click import and then import embed. And again, we have all the same features here, the functionality to resize manually here, or we can change the actual height in the iframe source code if you'd like to. And all the same features, you can type, click here to open in new tab. Go ahead and make that a hyperlink if you want to. Feel free to select any of these options here as well, and then enable any of the grading or non-grading that you're going to do for your discussion. Go ahead and click create. When students enter the discussion, they will now see the content embedded at the top. They'll see your description, your directions on how you want them to engage in this discussion, and then they have their spot here, of course, to respond to the discussion. The fifth option for embedding Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets, or Google Drawing is into an assessment question. So let's say, for example, I've created an assessment and I have a short answer question. For my question, I can put my question in here. And let's say that I want to embed a Google Doc in here, which is maybe an article of some kind, or you can embed a Google Drawing of images maybe that they respond to, or maybe you're embedding a spreadsheet with some sort of visual responses or graphs that they're analyzing. But let's go through that process now. So we're going to embed one of those options here. The first place we're going to need to go is to the actual doc itself. So I'm going to embed this doc here where they're going to have to read and then respond to it with the prompt that I give them. So like anything, you would get the link from this. Once you have the link, we're actually going to go to a website called iframe-generator.com. And this is going to generate the source HTML code that we need to paste into the assignment description box. So once we're here, I've found that 900 by 900 for this option, the Google Doc option, is going to be sized properly. And you can adjust that after the fact, but I'll show you here. So here's where I put my URL to the Google Doc. That's the Google Doc URL. Let's grab that again. Copy your link, make sure it's shareable with everyone, and paste that link in there. And we're going to click generate. It's going to generate this text. You're just going to simply copy it. And then we're going to go back into Schoology. Once we have our cursor where we want it in the description box, where we're going to embed our Google Doc, we're going to select source. And then we're going to notify our cursor here. We're going to enter down and simply paste in the code that we copied from the iframe generator website. Go ahead and click OK. It may take a second on connection to load, but we see that the Google Doc now is embedded inside of this question. Now this is a short answer question or an essay question. So one of the great features of this, once we go ahead and save, is for short answer questions like these, you can align a rubric to your question. And so you can align a rubric at the bottom of this option here. If we scroll down, we can align a rubric. And so now I can grade this DBQ style by assigning a rubric here. Other types of options that are available is any multiple choice. Any question that you choose on the assessment that has this source option here can be used to embed a Google Doc, Google presentation, Google Sheets, and Google Drawing. Once you get them in, if you're not sure, like this one, where it looks a little funky, the sizing is not quite right, you do have to open up the source again. Notice that the width is right here. It'll say 600 pixels. We can change the width to 800 to make it wider. Go to the front, and we can see that the height is listed at the front of the coding. And we can change that to whatever we want. Click OK, and then you can see the modifications that have been made to the sizing. Go ahead and do that if you embed something and it's not looking quite right. Once we go ahead and preview this, we can see what it looks like from a student's perspective. So there will be the question, there's the Google Doc, they can scroll up and down. Obviously my sizing is not correct for this one, and then they select at the bottom. For the short answer option, there's the question at the top, there's the Google Doc, and then there's their response here.